Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel, and I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I would just like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. And some people I thank who have inspired me, and I hope they can inspire you as well. And I will have links below this video to their sites. They are Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Lazer Brody, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Rabbi Yuval Ovadia, Rabbi Alona Nava, Rav Daniel Asore, Nisam Baruch Black, David Sachs, and Rabbi Michael Skobac, Jews for Judaism. So today we're starting a new topic, and it might be more than one video. I'm not quite sure. So the topic for today is called Birchat HaMazon, Grace After Meals. Do you know or understand what you're saying? Because people don't realize how important it is to, of course, we say blessings before we eat something because we want to thank Hashem, because, you know, we're not allowed to steal. That's what everything is from Hashem. So we have to acknowledge and thank Him before we consume something, or when we put on something new, when we're dressed with something new, or when we see, you know, a rainbow, or just different things that we have to acknowledge. So we say a blessing. So we also need to say a blessing afterwards. So this, where I'm going to focus on, is also from an Artscroll. It's called the Artscroll Mesorah Series. This is actually a little booklet, a pocket size. It's Pirkei Avos, which is the ethics of the fathers. It's something that we study between, what is it, after, when do we start studying it? I'm trying to remember. I know I've been doing it, so I think is it after Pesach? Yeah, after Pesach, before, through Shavuos, and some people till Rosh Hashanah, because on Shabbos usually we do this, we have extra time. But in here they also have Birchat HaMazon. So here's the little booklet, and I'll have a link below this video for their website, so you can check out all that they offer. But it also had the Birchat HaMazon at the end, and what's nice about this one is that it's in Hebrew and English, of course, you know, one next to the other. But also on the bottom it has some commentary. So that's what we're going to focus on, saying some commentary about what it is that we're saying. So I'm going to read some things to you here, like where did this all come from? So the commandment to thank Hashem after a meal is of scriptural origin, and that means in the Torah. It says, "V'achalta v'savata u'beirachta et Hashem Elokecha al ha'aretz hatova asher natan lach." And you shall eat, and you shall be satisfied, and you shall bless Hashem for the good land that He gave you. This is from Devarim 8:10. As the verse indicates, the scriptural requirements applies only when one has eaten his fill, meaning you have to be satisfied. You should eat, and you should be satisfied. From earliest times, however, the Jewish people have undertaken to express its gratitude to Hashem even after a modest meal, provided one has eaten at least as much bread as the volume of an olive, which is considered kazayas. There are several opinions regarding the modern equivalent of the Talmudic measurements, meaning how much actually is a kazayas, because maybe an olive in those days was tremendous. You know, if you know from when the Meraglim went into Canaan, they were bringing back these grapes that were huge. They weren't, I mean, we have grapes like really small. Their grapes were tremendous and heavy. So olives could have been the same. So what they're saying here is it ranges from 1 to 1 4/5 fluid ounces, which I don't know exactly what that means, but let's say we're eating a matzah. If you want to say Birchat HaMazon, you eat a whole like square matzah is what you would eat. The first to compose a text for grace after meals was Moshe. So Moshe was actually the first one to do this. It was probably after they had the man. That's what it says here, but continuing on. Whose text is still recited as the first blessing of the grace. So the first blessing in Birchat HaMazon was composed by Moshe. Although Moshe's blessing was composed in gratitude for the manna in the wilderness, you know, they had a different type of food than we do, it makes no mention of the manna. It is equally noteworthy that the general commandment of grace after meals was given in the context of a general exhortation to Yisrael that to remember the heavenly food which Hashem nourished them in the wilderness. That's what it is, to thank Hashem. Like, don't think, you know, you're expecting this, you deserve it. Yeah, I mean, Hashem said He's going to give it to you every day, new, but you still have to say thank you. That's important. The message appears rather clear. When we thank Hashem for giving us food, we are recognizing that there's no intrinsic difference between the manna and the livelihood one wrests from the earth through sweat and hard toil. Both are gifts from heaven. Meaning, you work, people don't understand too that your parnasa really doesn't come from your work. Your work is your effort to show that you're doing something, but really Hashem provides it. So that's how there's that connection. So we're going to delve into some of the different sections in the Birchat Hamazon. I'm not going to read the actual text of Birchat Hamazon in its completion. I may just read a few of the words that they have commentaries on. But the first blessing is the blessing Birchat Hazan is for the actual nourishment. Now before that, before I say that, there are certain psalms that are usually read before we actually read the Birchat Hamazon. One is in Psalm 137, Tehillim, is in memory of the temple's destruction, and that we say on weekdays and on the Shabbat and the festivals, or celebrating something like a bris or a pidyon haben or a marriage. We say Psalm 126 because 137 talks about the temple's destruction, and when you're having a joyous occasion, you don't want to say that. So the Psalm 126 it describes the joy of redemption. So the problem, Tehillim, it's Kuf Lamed Zayin, is Al Naharot Bavel. You probably read that one. And the other one is Shir Hamalot B'Shuv Hashem et Shivat Siyam. That's the one that we read on Shabbos and festivals. So, and then before you say Birchas Hamazon, if you have 3 men or more that are of bar mitzvah age or older, then you do the zimun. Now the zimun, it connotes both the invitation and presentation. So when 3 or more people eat together, one invites the others to respond to his praises to Hashem, and all of them jointly are required to present themselves as a group to come together. So, coming together as a group is stronger than just a single person. But if you don't have 3 men, then you don't do that. So that's what you say. So there's certain blessings that you say. Let's see. We could actually just a few things from the Zimun. It's when you say Yehi Shem Hashem Avarach, blessed be the name. That's the person who's the leader. They respond to the leader. They say the leader repeats this actually afterwards. I should say actually the leader says something, then the people repeat, then the leader says this again. He repeats this blessing because it would be improper and even sacrilegious for him to ask others to bless Hashem while he, being part of the group, refrains from joining them. So it's like they all say, Yehi Shem Hashem Avarach, Me'atav Yad Olam, blessed be the name of Hashem from this time and forever. And then he doesn't say it. Of course he has to say it. He's joining in with them, so he can't not say it. And then afterwards he says, Nivarech, to let us bless. It says, Birchat Maranan Rabbanan Rabbatai Nivarech Elokeinu. So when he says Nivarech, let us bless, a commandment done by an individual cannot be compared to one performed by a group, which I just mentioned. It's more stronger unity. When 3 recite Birchas Hamazon together, they say Nivarech, let us bless. When 10 say it, it's Nivarech Elokeinu. A few who perform a commandment are far inferior to a multitude, so the more, the stronger. When many people unite to do Hashem's will, each individual in the group reaches a far higher level than he would have had he acted alone, no matter how meritoriously, according to Chafetz Chaim. So they said, that's why I say when you daven with a kehila, with a group, you by each individually may have things that you're not doing so correctly, but when you come together as a whole, you're more meritorious. Hashem doesn't look at your individual stuff as much. Like your individual chas v'shalom, you do it in Aveira. You do mitzvahs, it's great, but nobody's perfect. So the idea is Hashem doesn't look at each individual. If you daven in a group, he looks at it as a whole. So that is more meritorious. And then he says, Baruch Shachalni Mishalo. he of whose we have eaten. So they say this text is drawn from Abraham. He would invite wayfarers to his home and serve them lavishly. When they were sated and refreshed and ready to continue on their way, they would thank him. But he would say that these thanks should not go to him, they should go to Hashem, because he's the one from whose bounty they have eaten. So that's what he used to do. He used to convince them to thank Hashem, because he says, otherwise you have to pay me for my, for this lavish feast. And he didn't charge, pennies. He charged a lot of money for it. So instead of them having to pay, they did that. They thanked Hashem, and then that kind of sparked the whole idea as wow, we eat this wonderful food. It's actually given to us by Hashem, and we thank him. So that kind of sparked the whole idea of knowing that there's a creator. So that's the introductory. So then we're going to talk about the first bracha. So again, this is the blessing for nourishment. So Birchas HaMazon comprises 4 blessings, of which the first 3 are scripturally, which is from the Torah, ordained, and the 4th was instituted by the sages. The first blessing was, as noted above, composed by Moshe in gratitude for the manna, which Hashem sustained Israel daily in the desert. For that reason, it precedes Nodeh. So Nodeh is the next one, which is the blessing of the land. So this is the blessing of the nourishment. Even though it might seem more logical to thank Hashem first for the land that produces food. So some of the words that they explain here, it says, Tamid lo chasar ba'al yachsar, which means have never lacked and may never lack. The subject of this sentence is mazon, nourishment, and the verse expresses the prayer that just as food was never lacking in the desert, may never be lacking in the future, because Hashem said every day you're going to get fresh manna. And of course, there were those who were doubters, which, there you go, you don't have your emunah, you don't trust and have faith in Hashem, so they would save it over, but unfortunately, it didn't hold up. It would get all full of worms and be rotting and putrefying. Whereas Shabbos, yes, you pick double to have Shabbos, and you can't pick on Shabbos. But every day, but it's a matter of having that complete faith and not having doubts, and it's tough. I mean, they were depending on Hashem for everything in the desert. They had nothing. They had no shelter, no food, no clothing. Everything was provided. Of course, they wore the same clothes for 40 years, which is amazing. I mean, and it was always clean for them and grew with them. And I think that's amazing that I wouldn't mind it, to be honest with you, to like have one outfit and be done. Be like, wow, save a lot of money too. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen when Mashiach comes, if that would happen again, but that would be really nice. So then, continuing on with this the first blessing, it says, "Ba'avur Shemo Hagadol," for the sake of His great name. What does this mean? We declare that the motive of our request for eternally abundant food is but for the sake of His great name, so that we may better able to we may be better able to serve Him, and we bless Him because. And then it goes on. Zan mefarnes meitiv. He nourishes, sustains, and benefits. Zan nourishes refers to food. Mefarnes sustains refers to clothing. Meitiv benefits refers to shelter. So here, that's what I just mentioned in the desert. Hashem gave them their food, their shelter, and their clothing. Nothing was. So this is all what we're thanking. These 3 phrases enumerate the basic needs of life, all of which are provided by Hashem. Hashem provides us with everything. And don't forget, the trick is, in a good way, is that whatever you buy your food, your clothing, I guess your shelter, I don't know if that could work, maybe something in your house you could use. You buy it, look, you say, when you're going to buy it, or when you're going and actually buying it, say this is L'Kuvit Shabbos, L'Kuvit Yantiv, L'Kuvit Rosh Chodesh. And then that food and that clothing, when it's used for those purposes and on those days, Hashem pays for it. You don't. You get it back. So that's really nice. So if you do that, you buy it, and then if it's left over or you wear your clothes another time, it doesn't matter. You've already done it for the sake of the holiness. So it counts. Okay? And let's see. We're going to continue on. I think we'll do one more of the blessings, and then we'll continue next time. So the second blessing is Birchat Haaretz, the blessing for the land. Let's see, this is a little bit long. So yeah, we'll just do the second blessing, and then the others will continue next time. So the blessing for the land. The second blessing was also ordained by the Torah and formulated by Yehoshua. which was the successor of Yeshua ben Nun, which was the successor of Moshe Rabbeinu, as the leader. He saw how much Moshe wanted to enter Eretz Yisrael and how anxious the patriarchs were to be buried in it, which is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. Except Rachel, no, Sarah, Rivka, and Leah. Therefore, when Yoshua was privileged to enter it, he composed this blessing in its honor. The blessing begins and ends with thanks. The expression of gratitude refers to each of the enumerated items: the land, the Exodus, the covenant, the Torah, the statutes, life, grace, kindness, and food. So he incorporates all these things into this blessing. So when it says, Shehinchalta lavotenu, you have given to our forefathers as a heritage, Eretz Yisrael is referred to as a nachala, a heritage, implying that it remains eternally our inheritance, even though unfortunately we are in exile now and still not ours, everyone's fighting over it. It's still, eventually, B'mher v'yameinu, Mashiach comes, that's it. It's ours. Nobody can refute it, nobody can say anything, nobody can take it away from us. It should happen very soon. Thus, the long exile means only that Hashem denied us access to it in punishment for our sins, not that it ceased to be ours. So it's still ours, but Mida Keneged Mida, if you understand that concept, measure for measure, because we chose to live a certain way, we became exiled even in our own land, meaning, like it says in one part of Tehillim, I can't remember which one it was, that Hashem gave us all this for nothing, the land and the vineyards and your shelters and your homes and all this, and I think it says in the Torah too, but we chose to abuse it. Hashem gave us all that so we don't have to toil in the gashmias, in the physical work, but in the ruchnias, so that we toil in Torah and mitzvos. So the idea is that why he gave us this all for kind of nothing, so to speak, so that we would do the right thing, but unfortunately we tainted everything and made it toxic and did things that weren't right and sins that were against Hashem. So Hashem said, that's it. Now, Mida Keneged Mida, you want to do this, now it's not going to be yours, unfortunately. Going on, it says, Tova Urechava, that means good and spacious. Whoever does not say that the land is desirable, good, and spacious has not properly fulfilled his obligation of Birchas Hamazon. Because once the Torah required that the land be mentioned, the sages decreed that its praises too should be enumerated. So when we're saying that, we have to say that it's wonderful, that, even though unfortunately it's not ours completely yet, it still is. Then it says, Ve'al britecha shechatamta bivsarenu, and for your covenant which you sealed in our flesh. The reference is to circumcision, mention of which the sages required in the blessing of the land, because the land was promised to Avram in the merit of circumcision. That's how it was. Women are not subject to the commandment of circumcision and Torah study. Nevertheless, women do say, for your covenant which you sealed in our flesh, for your Torah which you taught us. Magen Avram explains that since women do not require circumcision, they are considered as equivalent to circumcised men in this regard. And since women must study the laws of whatever commandments are applicable to them, they have a share in the study of Torah. So Torah study, yes, women, there's things that women do have to study and understand. The laws that will apply to women, things like about Sneas and Shabbos and Nida, and there's so many things. I believe Rabbi Mizrahi mentioned women would have to study like 70 or 100 years or something. I don't know. I don't think I'll get there, but unless I live, a long time and I'm here for Mashiach, may I be meritorious for that? I don't know. But I'd have many, many, many years to learn all the things that a woman are required to know. So we're going to stop here and continue on. There's two more blessings. Then we'll continue on with the rest of some of the commentary on Birchas Hamazon. But I just thought this would be something to learn, to understand what you're saying. It's important to know. And the other thing I would say is if you have a problem with the Hebrew, not that you don't know how to say it, because a lot of people say it and they know it by heart and everything, but if you don't understand what you're saying, it's better to read it in English or read it at some point in English and that you know it. Because what happens is you want to say it with kavanah. Birchas Hamazon has so much importance to it. It really, it's when you do it with a joyous and a loving and a really higher level, it changes things in your life, and for the good. So you wanna know what you're saying. So that's why I decided to do this. But again, I'm not reading through each section. It would just take much too long. So I just want to say that I hope in the merit of everyone following, doing what Hashem wants, like saying the brachos. Make sure you say Birchas Hamazon. It's so important that we come to a point very, very, very soon that, like here we made the bracha on the land, that we will have the opportunity to make the brachos in the land and see Mashiach come speedily in our days and rebuilding of our final and everlasting Beis Hamikdash. Amen, and thank you for watching.